Good evening. Good evening. Go there. Lhakdor. Yes. So one thing that I would like to mention right in the beginning is that when it comes to Buddhist practice, you need to know, sometimes you need to know how to do that practice in a long process. And you should also know how to do it in a nutshell. It's very important. Otherwise, some people just read, and many years, then they don't know how to deal with that. And I remember very clearly once a very great meditator, Geshe Lhakdor, he used to meditate months and years high up in the mountain. I was then a student in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, and people used to invite me to come and translate for Geshe La's teaching. So one day after the teaching, Geshe La said, Geshe Lhakdor, let us go for a walk. So we went for a walk in the forest. Then Geshe La said, now, since at that time I think I was already studying Madhyamika. So Geshe La said, now since you have already finished studying the Paramita, and you are also now studying Madhyamika, so you already have a lot of knowledge. So it is important to summarize it now. I think this is very important. And I say the same thing to the translators who come for the translators training. I tell them that when you translate the text, there are several ways of doing it. One is you should translate like a person who goes on the top of the mountain high up and then looks down and watch the beauty of the valley, You get an overall view of the whole thing. So that's one way of looking at the whole subject matter, the whole book. But then still you are not into the details. Then if you want to know what are the details, then just looking from the top of the mountain will not help. You need to come down and go into the town or the respective houses or gardens, whatever. Go and see the details. So there are different ways of doing things, whether it's translating or doing dharma practice. At the time of the Buddha himself, Buddha summarized his teaching, as His Holiness is summarizing his teaching these days very eloquently. Buddha was primarily addressing to the monks. Of course, he was traveling many places, especially in northern India, with his sanghas, giving teachings, talks and things like that. But he realized that even in the case of the monks, when you ask the monks to observe the 252 or 3 monastic rules and things like that, it's quite complicated, you see. So then he summarized a process of practice by saying, do not do anything that is evil. Do everything that is virtuous or positive. Completely discipline your mind. This is my teaching. Finish. In 4 lines. Do not do anything that is evil. Dikpachiyang mijashing. It's very important for all of us to remember this verse. Dikpachiyang mijashing. Do not do anything that is evil. This Tibetan word dikpa, I do not know the exact meaning of this word dikpa, but according to my own calculation, I think dikpa is similar like dikpa ranyak. Dikpa ranyak, dikpa, it means frightening, So dikpa chiyang mijashing, basically, I think I'm not sure whether I'm absolutely right or not, but this is something that I'm trying to figure out. Dikpa chiyang mijashing, basically saying, do not do those frightening things. If you harm others, it's frightening. If you make others sad, it's frightening, you see. It's not good. So do not do anything. Now we need to reflect on these teachings very carefully. Dikpa chiyang mijashing. He did not say, don't do this kind of dikpa, but do this kind of dikpa. He's saying, dikpa chiyang mijashing. That means in all times, in all situations, in all places, as far as these negative things are concerned, don't do that. It's not that you can't do these things here in Dharamsala because you are living very close to His Holiness, but you can do it when you go to America. or to go to some other country, Because Buddha had to say this because in those days there were some kind of prevailing religious practices where they say, okay, you can't do this within certain limit of, time or space, but after that you can do this, There are teachings like that. So Buddha said, no, do not do evil things at any place, any time, to anybody. Why? Because we all want peace, happiness, as I said earlier. Unhappiness, suffering, problem, difficulties, they come from dikpa, by evil thinking, by evil action, by evil speech. Like for example, even if I use a very nasty word, just by this nasty word, I can make many people sad, shattered. Tamla nongar meja meaning tumburtup. The word that we use does not have the sharpness like a blade, but it can chop the heart of other people into pieces. There's a Tibetan saying. There's an English saying which says, the tongue, which may be few inches long, can fell a person 6 feet tall. Kill a person 6 feet tall, meaning that you can harm that person just by saying rough language. So verbally, physically, mentally, do not try your best not to engage in those evil deeds, because it will make your life miserable, it will make other people's life miserable. Do the virtuous practices perfectly, meaning that in terms of doing good things, virtuous practices, wherever you are, in whatever country, in whatever place, to whomever, you need to do it. Because there is the cause for long-lasting peace and happiness. So these are challenging teachings. Buddha is basically saying, look, you need to find that for yourself, whether you really genuinely want that long-lasting peace and happiness or not. If you don't want that, okay, you do whatever you like. But if you genuinely want that long-lasting peace and happiness, then the only solution is that you stop doing these evil deeds and start practicing those positive things. And if you do that, you can see the result. You don't have to wait until you become an arhat or become Buddha. You can see that. You can see that. Test it. Now these things we have to practice. We all make mistakes. We are all susceptible to doing and repeating the same thing again and again. But when we commit such negative deeds, then we have to reflect and see how was it. How much damage this one has done to you and to others. Then make a will that I will not repeat this again. That's the only way. That's the only way. There's no other shortcut. So in the beginning you might feel, oh, this is an uphill task. It's very difficult for me to do this Dharma practice. You might feel like that. But as Shantideva says, the thing is, if you get habituated, there's nothing which is difficult. Right now, because you are not habituated, you think it's horrible. Like, for example, how did you finish your MA, BA and all those things? There was a time when you thought, oh, this is impossible. Even learning ABCD was difficult, you see. But now you not only finish ABCD, but you did your BA, MA, PhD. So many things you have learned. That's the greatness of the human mind. Unlike physical training. Another important thing that practitioners need to know is that unlike physical training, in the case of mental training, you can train it until you become Buddha. You can continuously make progress and develop the mind. That's the beauty of the training of the mind. In the case of the physical training, you train as much as you want. And through that training, let us say you become the number one, let us say long jump or high jump or whatever in the world, gold medalist. But still there will be limitation. For example, in the case of a person who is the number one in, let us say, long jump, he is definitely the number one and the gold medalist in the world. But still, if he continues to do that long jump practice, there will never be a time when he or other people will be able to see that he practiced so much that these days now he is jumping from one mountain to another mountain. It will never happen. Because the basis on which we are giving the training is physical, material. Anything that is physical, material, by definition has a limitation. Now in the case of the mind, the basis, the mind, to which we give the training, it is non-physical. Non-physical. We all have this experience. It's because of our lack of sustained effort that we don't make much progress. But if we make sustained progress, you will be like amazed how much you can do with this mind. All the modern marvels in the case of gadgets, whether it's wireless telephone or traveling in an airplane, I mean, for an ordinary person, I cannot imagine how do people do this, you see. That we have achieved all this through human mind, human imagination. So the only thing is, again, we have used our mind for producing material things. Again, that's the problem, you see. Because we are so much after material objects that whatever so-called development we make, at the end of the day, it ends up producing material things. And that, in turn, fuels greed. Because material things are there to see, and you get attracted to it. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, you see. Now, especially in today's world, the modern gadgets, the attractive modern gadgets that is flooding the market, is just completely ruling the mind of the people, especially the young people. Day and night, you will find people sitting with the mobile. Sometimes I jokingly tell people that in ancient times, at least in Tibet, people used these fingers to recite mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. So now you have, so every time you check your email or something, you can say Om Mani Padme Hum. So that's the thing, you see. So therefore, I'm not against any kind of technological or scientific development. That probably may be the call of the time. But what I'm saying is, you should never, ever ignore the importance of mind, the role it plays for our long-lasting peace and happiness. If we do that, we are doing it on our own peril. As I said clearly earlier, that your mind is your boss, not your husband, not your wife. Your mind is your boss. So imagine if the boss which is ruling you is a negative one, imagine what kind of life you will have. It's clear that you will have countless troubles and difficulties. Greed, anger, hatred, and all kind of negative emotions will be there for that person. And if you are ruled by such population of negative emotions, it is clear that you can never ever experience long-lasting peace and happiness. Contrarily, if you elect a mind which is positive, just like we do through the election, you see. So our mind is, the two groups of emotions are now trying to control our mind. The positive party and the negative party. So right now the negative party, the party of negative emotions, had won us, thumping majority. And they are ruling us. And we have selected the self-cherishing attitude and the self-grasping attitude as our king or minister or whatever. So they are dictating us, get angry, develop attachment. So that's the line of our thinking, the way we live our life. And as a result, here we are. Despite wanting happiness, we are not getting it. Despite not wanting happiness, we getting it in ample quantity. So therefore, now next time when you do the proper election, make sure that you overthrow the party of the negative emotions and elect the positive emotion party and select your president, prime minister, bodhicitta, wisdom understanding the reality. as His Holiness and many other great teachers are doing. If you do that, even one person can bring so much peace and happiness. As we are seeing, I'm not just talking. Buddha did that. His Holiness is, to this day, we can all see doing that. And in our case, those of us who are completely controlled by negative emotions, forget about taking care of many others. We are unable to take care of oneself. As clear as that. So there's no other way. If there's really another way which is guarantee for long-lasting peace and happiness, be it technology, be it science, be it whatever, if there is an alternative, better alternative, we should go for that. There's no problem with that. But the thing is, there is no alternative. Now, for example, if we look at today's world reality, if we almost reached the zenith of material progress, development, scientific development, of course, still much to go, but huge progress during the last few centuries. But are we happier? Our natural resources are better kept? Natural resources are dwindling. Unthinkable climate changes are taking place. People are killing each other with the machine produced by technology and science. Here you are. As clear as that. As clear as that. So therefore, we should, those of us who have this rich tradition of practicing Buddhism, should be happy. And also should consider not only being happy, but we should study more, reflect more, and try to live what you have learned as much as possible. There's no push button enlightenment. Enlightenment will not come like that. That's a fact. But still, if we make an attempt, it'll become better, slightly better. So that way we can help many other people, you see. Now here in Dharamsala we have so many non-Tibetans, foreigners, Westerners. Why they are coming here? Not to do business with the Tibetans. But they come to learn the messages of Buddha, which luckily we Tibetans have kept intact, even in exile. So that is, according to Buddha's teaching, these teachings of the Buddha are the real jewel, real gem, real wealth. The other ordinary wealth, it comes and goes, and also not sure. No lungju dangmi dangsin rati henji sal henji sa. The material possessions and wealth are like honey collected by bees. The bees work very hard, collect the honey, and after having collected a huge amount, somebody else comes and takes them away. So in our life, it's exactly like that. You work very hard, make your money, then somebody calling cousin, brother, sister, husband, wife, they'll take away. I'm not against that. I'm not against anybody, using that. I'm not in that sense, but what I'm saying is that is the reality. That's the reality. And then, unfortunately, the benefit that you do by material gift to others is very limited. Therefore, we talk about education, which includes the Buddhist education. So therefore, so he's talking basically of two practices of morality. One is a kind of morality which we should engage in, we should practice. Means that this is something that you should do. That means don't, develop any of the negative emotions. Get rid of the negative emotions. Restrain the negative emotions. But that's not enough. Engage in cultivating the positive emotions. Now how much you are able to do? You need to do a test, whether you are doing that or not. If you have been trying your best to get rid of the negative emotions and cultivate the positive emotions, then the sign of that is, if you're comparing to your earlier state, if you are finding yourself a little bit peaceful and calm, then your practice is on the right track. Because the purpose of this practice of morality and ethics is to discipline the mind. And if you're able to see that state of having disciplined the mind, and we find there's much more calmness and happiness, then this is a sign that your practice is hitting the target. This is one way of explaining. The other way of explaining is, in terms of getting rid of the negative emotions and cultivating the positive emotions, the most important thing to deal with is your mind. But when it comes to taming the mind, the thing called mind, number one, is non-physical, colorless, shapeless, therefore we don't care. We only think about the tangible things, something to touch, something to smell, something to taste, only tangible things. What is not tangible, I don't care, kind of attitude we have. So therefore, number one, unfortunately, we don't pay any attention to the mind, the importance of the mind. Even when we try to, even on those occasions when we try to handle the mind, you will find that the mind is so fluctuating. It is like lightning. It's like fluctuating. One Western practitioner once came to me and said, Geshe, before I meditated, I was a nice person. After I started meditating, I became a bad person. That's the thing, you see. So I told her, no, that's not the case. This is a good beginning. It's a good sign. Because before you meditated, you have no idea what is coming in your mind, who you are. But now, because you have started meditating, you have noticed that many bad thoughts are coming, so you thought you become a bad person. This is a good sign. You have started noticing the invasion of the negative emotions. So therefore, once you notice the invasion of the negative emotions, then you need to gradually say no to the invasion of the negative emotions. Yes to the positive emotions. It's like making friendship. When you make friendship with somebody, the more you spend time with that person, the more you see the ugly side of that person, then you will get fed up with that person. Oh, he's cheating me, he's not reliable. Then you will gradually distance yourself from that person. The more you spend time with that person, the more you see the good heart, the compassionate heart, the loving attitude of that person, the more you feel like coming closer to that person, the more you will trust that person. So similarly, when we talk about developing positive emotions, removing negative emotions, it's exactly like how we make friendship. The more you know about the destructiveness of negative emotions, the more you will develop some kind of repulsion. That, oh, anger is coming. Oh, hatred is coming. This anger destroyed me, destroyed my peace, destroying now the lives of many people through anger. So you will definitely warn yourself and you will distance yourself from the invasion of such negative emotions once you see the destructiveness of these negative emotions. In the case of the positive emotions, the more you know the advantages, the benefits of these positive emotions, the more you will want to practice that, welcome them, and cultivate them in your mind. So therefore, when we talk about Buddhist practice, we are basically saying you need to now you need to learn saying no to the negative emotions. You need to say enough is enough. That's the thing, you see. Enough is enough. The time you fooled me, cheated me, deceived me, destroyed me was a time that's gone now, when I had no knowledge about the teaching, when I had no wisdom about the teaching. Then you negative emotions, you manipulated me, you cheated me. Exactly as you deal with your friends, you see. Now I know how destructive you are, your negative emotions. So no more cheating, no more room in my mind. In the case of the positive emotions, you need to say, I'm extremely sorry. You are such a wonderful, beneficial, positive emotion, but I never realized that. Now I have gradually started seeing your benefits. So I'm extremely sorry. Whenever you have time, please come for a cup of tea. Exactly as we say with people, you see. So you cultivate loving kindness, you cultivate compassion, you study about bodhicitta, you cultivate wisdom, you see. Then these qualities will become very familiar with you. And in this way, if you continuously train yourself in the development of these positive emotions, then after a while, these positive emotions will come to you automatically. Then you can see the benefit. It is through this way, then one can make one's life meaningful, not through many other ways. This is the way of course, you can learn many other subjects to make a living. I'm not saying that just study Buddhism, you'll get money, you'll become rich, your family will have no problem. I'm not saying that. All these mundane things are, of course, for the time being, because of this physical, mental reality, we may have to run after these things. But this kind of spiritual practice and thinking, I call them as the national highway. This should be your main lifeline. Then you can go here, do a little bit of your work, business, all these things. But this thing, you don't forget. Come back. So therefore, Rangi Simni Yongsudu. So for a good practitioner, the most important task is to watch one's mind all the time. What I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what I'm saying. Watching one's physical, verbal, mental activities all the time. That's not easy. It's a big job. But that is called practice. Practice is not just visiting the temple, going around knowing nothing, and then doing some prostrations and doing nothing, knowing nothing. I mean, these are good. If you are feeling comfortable, okay, wonderful. But this is not going to solve the problem. Why? I'm telling you, I will tell you, it's not secret, but almost like a secret. It's a very important practice. That is, we can do spiritual practice physically, verbally, and mentally. Basically, we can do practice through these three gateways: physical, verbal, mental. But those spiritual practices related to your body and speech are not long lasting unless you involve your mind. For example, when you die, you leave your body behind, and with that you leave your speech behind. So that's the end of the story, if you have not involved your mind. But if you had involved your mind through meditation and so forth, then after death, what goes to the next life is not your body, not your speech, but your mind. So therefore it is important to involve the mind in your practice. That's why in Buddhism we talk so much about meditation. Meditation basically means cultivation, bhavana. Bhavana. If you read the life story of the Buddha, he spent most of his time around northern India. Although he was a prince, but he had this ample occasion to look at the farmers ploughing the land, waiting for the monsoon. This year they do their cultivation of land and get certain crops or not crops, whatever, they have to do this. Next year they have to do the same thing. Next year they have to do the same thing. So Buddha almost got the idea from there, saying cycle of existence, samsara, doing the same thing again and again. I think he got a clue from there also. But the real meaning of samsara, of course, is related to this endless cycling through negative emotion and contaminated karma, but I think he got an idea from there. That's what we do all the time, repeatedly, every year, more or less the same thing, recycling. So likewise, in terms of meditation also, he got an idea from these farmers who are cultivating the land. They cultivate the land, make sure that the land is fertile, that there's no obstruction for the growth of the plants or crops and things like that. But then it's dependent on the rain and many other obstructions, so it's not sure whether the farmer will be able to get a good crop or not. So from this, he learned the need to cultivate the mind, like the farmers cultivate the land. That you repeatedly need to make the land fertile, remove the obstructive stones or broken glasses or stumps of trees or whatever, you see. So bhavana, cultivation. In Tibetan we call it khomba, habituation. Habituating with positive emotions. So therefore what I was trying to say was, it is in this way we need to know how to sometimes summarize the practice. I have met a number of people who say that I've been studying, trying my best to understand the teaching, I've been reading a lot, but I don't know how to summarize it. How can I do the practice? Many people ask this question, you see. And there are many people who talk about how to meditate, you see. So they think there is a special subject that you should study, there's another special subject for meditation, they think like this. But the thing is that this whole teaching of the Buddha is for meditation. Like compassion is for meditation. So you need to just know the meaning of compassion, different types of compassion, then make your mind habituate with that is meditation. So you can do countless meditations on each and every aspect of Buddha's teaching. It's not that there are a few tips you need to follow all the time, no. And a successful meditation is possible only if you have understood the limitation of this ordinary earthly existence, the samsara we call it. For example, take the example of a prisoner. If the prisoner is feeling comfortable and okay in the prison, he will never think about leaving the prison and running away. But when the facilities in the prison are horrible, the treatment that is given there is horrible, then day and night the prisoner will think about running away from the prison. That's what normally the prisoners do. Even with very less equipment, they would somehow make a hole in the wall or in the ceiling, or they try to escape from there. Day and night they will find ways and means to escape from it. Why? Because they have seen the suffering, problem, limitation, frustration there. But in our case, we talk about nirvana, enlightenment, but we have no idea about the limitations, frustration, suffering of samsara. So how can we develop that genuine wish to get liberation, enlightenment? So therefore, we need to first of all see the limitations, the frustrations. Once you are able to see that, then there is a hope. In his 400 verses, Aryadeva, he says, that means a person who is not disgusted with this samsara, how can that person develop respect to the nirvana? And he gives the example by saying, that means if you are living in a particular home or family, and if you're okay with that family, no problem with the neighbors, you're comfortable, then you'll never think about moving to America or some other place. But if you are having some problem in your family or in the place or the land where you're living, whatever be the reason, then you will think about moving to some other place because you have seen the difficulty, you have seen the limitation. So therefore it's not easy. Spiritual practice is not easy. So, but it's important that we need to think about this. So gradually we'll get an idea what is more important, what is less important, what is important in the long run. Because we have already agreed saying that we all want peace, happiness, long-lasting peace and happiness. We all agreed already. This we have to remember all the time. This is not something you learn from Buddhism. This is the way we are, longing for the most long-lasting peace and happiness. That's what we are. So therefore we need to cater to this need. And in fact, this wish to get this long-lasting peace and happiness is said to be a very important indication. I remember His Holiness teaching this one time by saying that you're right from the birth, you're having this wish to get that long-lasting peace and happiness shows that it is possible for you to become Buddha, the highest level of happiness. Your wish to shun suffering of any kind shows that you can do it if you make the attempt. But still, if you don't make the attempt, it will not come like that. But if you make an attempt, you have the potential. That's why in Buddhism we say everybody has the Buddha potential. That means the ultimate nature of the mind, which is the capacity to get completely transformed and get rid of the negative emotions. So that is good news. That's good news. But unless we practice it, His Holiness cannot help us. Buddha cannot help us. Because after achieving enlightenment, when Buddha was requested to give the teaching, he said, no. What I realized, what I found is something very difficult for you to understand, so don't disturb me. Let me continue my meditation in the forest. Don't disturb me. Several weeks he continued, even after achieving enlightenment, several weeks he stayed around the Bodh Gaya doing meditation. He said, what I have found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So I will not say anything. I'll just retire into the forest and continue my meditation. That was his response. I have found something that is profound. Look at each of these words. I have found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So let me stay in the forest. Sabhi tuti vuse dumachi. Sulate jang kovar menube mema naujinam never. That's what he said. But then again, the celestial beings and human beings, they again requested him by saying that it is true that you found this nectar-like teaching, which is very difficult to understand, but there are some very intelligent people. So some of them may be able to, if not complete, they may be able to understand a little bit. So please share your wisdom. And having made this request, the first teaching that the Buddha gave was Four Noble Truth. Look at this. The interesting thing about the Buddhist teaching is down-to-earth teaching. The Four Noble Truth teaching can be made very complicated, but basically what he has observed was people are running hither and thither in want of happiness, and there's nobody who wants suffering. He has observed this very clearly with all sentient beings. Wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. But he has also observed that even though people want happiness, then they are not getting it enough. They do not want suffering, but they are getting it in plenty. So therefore said, the Buddha thought, what should we do? If people want happiness, is there a cause for happiness? If people do not want suffering, is there a cause for suffering? If there is a cause for happiness and suffering, then cultivate the cause for happiness. You will have happiness. Remove the cause of suffering. You will be able to do away with the suffering. So that is called Four Noble Truth. Happiness and its cause, suffering and its cause. I mean, in simple language. But we can make it very complicated also. So that was the teaching. See, down to earth. Exactly what we are experiencing all the time. He was addressing those issues. Then when it came to teaching the Four Noble Truth, the first teaching that he gave was impermanence. The first teaching of the Four Noble Truth is the truth of the suffering, and the first feature of the truth of suffering is impermanence. That is what I was saying. Impermanence could mean anything, mean many things, but impermanence is, the transient nature, the changing nature. It includes the imminent death that we all have to experience and things like that. So therefore from that teaching he was basically saying, look, we are all transient, impermanent. Whether the external material things are impermanent or not, that matters much less. He was primarily talking about us human beings or sentient beings. Look at our body and mind, which you are cherishing so much, which you are looking after so much. This is fragile, impermanent, not long-lasting. However much you look after, especially your physical body, however much you decorate it, it has only a limit beyond which you cannot go. So what he's saying by this? By this he is saying that since that is the nature of your life, use this life meaningfully. Seize the opportunity when your life is active and energetic, when you are able to do something, do those good things quickly. So that if possible, you will not have to take such a rebirth again. You will take a much better rebirth, which is not ruled by negative emotions. So that's what he was saying, impermanent. This is, I would call that mind-blasting teaching. Because in our ordinary life, we never think about impermanence. We are all thinking about permanent. I'll move to America and stay there permanently. In India, it's not so good. So I'll move to America and there whatever you are going plan, whatever is your plan, you're thinking, then I will have long-lasting peace and happiness there. This is just an example, you see. So we are all making plans to stay. And that is true in the case of even a very elderly person, say 98 years old. If you go and ask this question to that 90 years old person, Genla, you are now quite old. Are you going to die soon? Or maybe I'm going to die very soon. Yeah, I'm very old, I know. Are you going to die tonight? Or tonight? I don't think so. So that's what Tsongkhapa says in his Lamrim Chemo. He says that everybody has this understanding that one day I will die, but the problem is everybody thinks today I will not die. That's the problem. Where is the guarantee to say that you will not die tonight? If you are going to die tonight, then what is the preparation that you have done now? That's the thing. So therefore, if you understand this transient, impermanent nature, you will be naturally making preparations for the long journey. Just like you are planning to fly to America or Japan, whatever, tomorrow, then you will check, is my air ticket okay, confirmed? Do I have the contact person in the airport, somebody who is going to come and receive me? Because now you are flying there tomorrow. So you will make preparation. But right now we talk about samsara, but we are saying, samsara is bad. Just for the sake of saying we are saying samsara is bad, but in deep down we are all feeling so far samsara is quite wonderful. So that's why we are scared of death. Scared of death means I'm going to live. Live where? In samsara. So therefore, in terms of this practice, you need to bring about kind of a radical revolution. And that radical revolution will come by understanding these teachings and reflecting about the reality. Okay? So that's something that I wanted to mention in the beginning. So much time has already been spent. I'm sorry. Anyway, so 풍봉어워 대다장 랑신지 동반 넘버도 디버 친르와 가자 풍봉어워 대다장 랑신지 동반 넘버 양다 버다오. Addressed in this way, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra. Yeah, then through the power of Buddha. Okay, now in the first paragraph we have, what we basically read was Buddha entered into meditation on the profound emptiness. So that was the blessing. That was the activating force. Chinjilava. But Chingindi, Buddha's meditation. Chinjilava Chisadi, Shariputra, Pagbacheresik. So Buddha gave the blessing by entering into the meditation on the profound, emptiness. So he was the one who is giving the blessing. The one who is blessed is Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra. Because of Buddha's blessing, they entered into dialogue. Shariputra developed this wish to ask question on this profound emptiness to Avalokiteshvara, and Avalokiteshvara answers his questions. So therefore, then through the power of the Buddha, that's what I'm saying. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, Shariputra and Mongol Putra or Mongolayan. These were earlier, they were of course not Buddhist, but there's a long story. In the very beginning of this text in Kanjur on Vinaya, in the very beginning, there's a beautiful story of what they studied, who they met, and finally how they came to the teaching of the Buddha. It's a beautiful, very long story about Shariputra and Mongol Putra. But these two, Shariputra and Mongol Putra, they were very close friends. So Shariputra is actually said to be emanation of a Buddha, one of the Buddha, Dripanam Silki. He got this name Shariputra. Putra means Sharipu. He's son of the mother Sharika. Ama Sharika ge Puyinza Shariputra. And his mother's name is called Sharika because it is said that the mother has an eye which looks like the eye of a bird called Sharika. Okay? Shariputra. Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara is somebody who has entered the path of seeing, therefore he is called Phagwa, noble. The Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. How should a son or daughter of noble family train? Noble family, Rigjipu, son or daughter of the lineage. The actual translation is the son and daughter of the lineage. That means when it comes to practicing these teachings, there's no difference between men and women. That's what he's saying. Son or daughter. Okay, son or daughter.
In Tibetan only
Rigjipu, yeah, son of lineage. Son or daughter of the lineage, lineage, Mahayana lineage, who has the potential to become the Buddha. So how should a son or daughter of, that means who has this interest towards the Mahayana teaching? Of lineage means one who has this inclination, appreciation towards the Mahayana teaching. So in that case, whether you are a man or woman, son or daughter, all of you can practice that. So how should you practice this? How should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Parajana Paramitra? Okay? Hirabji Parodu Chimba, Samechoba Cheban Dobati, Mare, Chanjo Semba Semba, Habajanes, Sandama Sharidan, Dikeji, Mare, Sanji to set them by Shariba, Chanjo Semba Semba, Habajanes, one to Dikeji Meso. Take Ganlerway. Yes, you are. Got it. La. Yes, you are. He did this through there, yeah. Tachevamento, do Siena Chesa. Yanti, Chanju Semba Semba, Papa Genes, one to share for Jimba Samucho Banila number that you Pumanga with the Danakitumba number Tawa Chaos, the Chisavache. Tene Sanji to set them by Sharibu, Chanju Semba Semba, Papa Genes, the one to Landiki Meso, Regipu Kanla, Hiraji Paru, the Chimba, Samuchoba Chip and Doba, Chetar Labarcha, the deeper to degrade. That deal Kazangala Tibacha time, but Samuchoba Chip and Doba test Lavi 60 dos. Yamena Samuchepa Chip and Doba say 60 to the Kartagar, say the what? What the Mango Keba Mango Chiki, this Samuchepa Chip and Dobas. Those in the Hijam. Samuchepa said to the lady che. Samuchepa did lady che. Lay tela, Hubert Dugain. Jogging. Said those that Keba Mambuki did Taga race in the lung in the town. Here. In a Keba Mambuki, Samuchepa Chip and Dobas, the Hasha. The and the Hijabe do. Kind of Samuchopa Sena, co Tumpani guitar, Yamliki, Chopal and Juding Tige, any Chapar sitting Yamlich and a condition race. Herwa, Tuxelam Najaredua. Taina Samuchepa Chapar Dobasena, Chapati Lachin, Samuki lay, Yamlin chicken, Doba chicken, Juna, any decondesta, sugar race, condesture, I say, direction. Okay? So, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Parajana Paramita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Parajna Paramita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Chanjo semba semba chembo phagpa chene se wanjo ke sara namba sharin do dipula dike ji meso duk sala bare se bota. Lupsudi, how should you train? Sharipu rigipu makala sharaj for sama chemba chemba doba de deter number tower chades. So now here, what we are basically saying is, having developed bodhicitta, by the person, man or woman, son or daughter, who has that lineage of the Mahayana, how should one engage into the practice? There's the question that's being asked. So in terms of the answer, he gives this answer by saying, it depends who you are. He gives an answer by saying it depends who you are, whether you are a person with sharp intelligence or blunt intelligence. So first he gives an explanation about how, so what I was saying in Tibetan was that when this question was asked, how should one do the practice, then he answers by saying it depends upon your intelligence. Whether you're a person with sharp intelligence or blunt intelligence or less intelligence. So therefore, then he gives the answer by saying, first he speaks about those people with, less intelligence or blunt intelligence. So first he explains about how should one engage in the practice of the wisdom perfection during the path of accumulation and the path of application. In Buddhism, we talk about the 3 paths: path of accumulation, path of application, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning, lamanga yorwa. So first he gives an answer by saying that if you are somebody who is training in the path of accumulation and path of preparation, the first 2 paths, then you should practice in this way. So he's basically saying that if you are out of these 3 paths, when you engage in the practice of the first path, the path of accumulation, then at that time your primary focus is hearing and thinking. Hearing and thinking. Of course you do meditation, but primarily, I'm saying, primarily hearing, thinking. Thosam tsowache, tsolam kabla. Pepe mingla de lamdela tsolam sidu. Thosam chene, tso tungpa nyigla, thosam chene, tso sabagi, negaba insan tsolam tsowo, ta ming tawa chane. Tungpa nyigla, thosam chene, tso sabagi, tsowo insan tsolam sidu. And when you enter into the, when your practice is for the path of application, then your primary focus is gumjung. That means as and when you are able to achieve a meditative stabilization, which is union of calm abiding and special insight, hila sungde ki tinginzi, thobna, then you move into the second path of application. So this is a little bit technical, but so out of these 5 paths, the first path, just to get a rough idea, these are not so easy to understand at one go. The first path of accumulation, is a path where you primarily accumulate merit through hearing and thinking toward the subject of shunyata or emptiness. And during the second path of preparation, you primarily engage in meditative state. And gradually, when you are able to reach that meditative stabilization of union of calm abiding and a special insight, and when you are able to realize emptiness, not directly, but through a generic image, through a medium, so that's the focus during the second path. And then during the third path, when you're able to see emptiness directly, the third path is called path of seeing, because you're able to see emptiness directly. Though even after having seen emptiness directly, it is not enough. You need to continuously meditate on it to remove many other layers of, negative emotions and their imprints. So therefore, you need to continuously meditate. So the path after path of seeing is called path of meditation. And then gradually you become Buddha, there's nothing to learn, no more path to cultivate, then that state is called path of no more learning. So just to get a rough idea. Okay. So therefore, with regard to the process of this practice, both during the path of accumulation and preparation, he is basically saying that the focus is to see seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Phungbo ngawati da rangshin ji dungban namba tawa seji dowa. Phungbo ngawati. Ta chazan soglam da jolam nike kawla. Phungbo ngawati rangshin ji dungba tungwa yinba ta tayi di kangla, ta soba di kangla. Tindi chik ta sung dowa. So here it says, seeing, actually the word also is missing here. Also seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. There's the focus. Not only seeing the lack of inherent existence of the person, but also the five psychophysical aggregates. The five skandhas, five aggregates. The five aggregates are form, feeling, perception, formation. I'm not so sure with this fourth one, it's very complicated. But I would, for the time being, I would use the word formation. And then consciousness. Because these five aggregates are there with us. So based on this reality that is there with us, if you understand the lack of inherent existence of these five psychophysical aggregates, it will help you understand the lack of inherent existence of many other things. So I think it is because of this he is talking about the lack of inherent existence of the five psychophysical aggregates. Now with regard to the five psychophysical aggregates, first he speaks about form. Ngawatena tangbo sugi phungbo shedwa. Tishe phungbo nga du se chagdandi kari rakba yoba de ngoyal he. Lamsa ha kutubi de ngoyal he. Tini taru chi. Out of the five aggregates, the order how these five aggregates are represented is in terms of their subtlety. The first aggregate of form, is much easier to understand. Something that we can feel with and touch and see, and it's easy to understand. Then when you move to the second, feeling, it's a little bit more difficult to understand comparing to the form. Then you move to the perception, more difficult. Move to the formation, more difficult. More to the consciousness, more difficult. In one of the texts, they give an explanation. The physical form is like an empty pot. Physical form is like an empty pot. And the feeling is like the food that is there in the empty pot. And perception is like vegetable that you add to the food. If you just have a plain food, it may not taste much, but if you put some vegetable with it, it may be more tasty. And then the formation is like the cook who makes the food. But at the end of the day, one who will taste everything is the consciousness. So consciousness is like the person who enjoys the food, you see. So therefore it is said that if you want to know this in detail, then you should read Abhidharma. In the Abhidharma, you don't have to read the whole Abhidharma, but there's a section where you need to read that. And out of this physical form, many of these physical forms we can see by our naked eye, but there are many subtle forms, like very small particles which we cannot see by naked eye. Then feeling means happiness, suffering, so forth. Perception basically means a kind of discernment or recognition. Oh, this is blue. Oh, this is man. This is woman. Dushi seman zimbatis. Clearly understand the different symbols and signs and features. Then duji ngombar dushi, I'm not so clear about that. I read many texts, it's not very clear. The very meaning of the word Duji, basically it's like formation. But everything that is not there in the other four, the form, the feeling, the perception, and consciousness of all phenomena, those that are not included in this four, they are all in the formation. So which includes the 51 mental factors, and then aging, death, sickness, all these are included in this formation. But it's not, there's the very meaning of the word duji is, I think, coming together or something, but I'm not so sure about that. For example, in the case of the form, there's an explanation. I mean, the explanation of the word. For example, suk segoro, suk se na? Nanti namjule la wachane suk surong suk jisenye selapjaro. Koju kita mentu samde ki yongoma. Suk se na paje tu suk wasoro bajik labgiyo sarwa. Suk. Par suk wase de segoro. Tin dekhe jabi yungde no bacharong was. No bacharong was the very nature of the physical form is that it is obstructing. Wherever a particular physical form is here, no other physical form can stay here, occupy here. Nga desa kubja dinga chunzu detu maro. Ku sukjin chig yuna sukjin hienda kan no ba chig doa. O suksuruma se dire doa inju. Tadi ko khakure. Taga na shinga ta sorba de nga zo hakko ko feeling khakku chira mdoa. O duksre. Ta doso chana se lobjo jange na ta doso loading da doso na la theyong yore. Ani kusu logo yere sha. Des himjuk chego yere sha. Pechak mangku na ya gashi sewo yo wachin gashi hiwran sewo me ba tadi yungu doa. Chinzars tuzu Pungbo ngabo tedanya ranshinji tungbar nambar yang takwar jesu taos. Just few comments. Pungbo ngabo tedanya ranshinji tungbar nambar yang takwar jesu taos. Tadi keshambore ta. This is important. This point is very important. Seeing also the five skandhas to be empty of nature. That's the point of this whole text. I will be repeatedly talking about this. That means form is there, feeling is there, perception is there, formation is there, consciousness is there, but they are not there as we think. Suk yorbe se na? Yorba. Hina ngaran suke samlo tawa nashi yorbe se na yormare se horta. Chesa? Pumbo ngabote da ranshinji tungbar number tao. Ranshinji tungbar number yang takbar jesu tawa se na. Form is there, but they are not there having inherent independent existence. Ta keja tirare ta jahe tunghe na keja dikhali gire ta. Henda tsanga ton joku lo hyan di gor ta. Jasan dinge ta chuk sa chi lap yang jo chana sa gungba he. Chena kechim bo yor ta. Thingme gu do china la sugne uwa dewa da se chi yor ta sikji di chikchina sikji de sanyi kitum na nge khiyung gorwa. Khanda kharse gor sana ta di samlo yak pujis ta shi dustan ta. The BMW car. Let us imagine a BMW car here. Because this point is now very important. Let us imagine that we are those bunch of people who are dying to have a BMW car. Because of that longing for the BMW car, even at that stage when we don't have enough money to buy a BMW car, we'll go to that shop. We will go and visit that shop again and again and look at the BMW car. How nice if I am able to buy this one. It looks so fantastic. Then you touch your pocket, how much money you have, you count the money. Still not enough money, you work very hard, make more money, work. Then finally when you buy it and possess it, it becomes all the more beautiful for the first few days. So that's the honeymoon period. That's the honeymoon period. You see? It is not the case that this BMW is so fantastic and so good as you thought. but you are projecting it. It's wonderful, absolutely good. If I have it, I'll be in heaven. Kind of attitude, you see. So what is wrong with that attitude? What is wrong with that attitude is, number one, you may or may not be in need of that, but because of your greed and desire and wrong perception, it will make you work like a donkey. Because to buy that car is not easy, you see. I'm giving this example, but in our daily life, much of the running that we do is because of greed. As Mahatma Gandhi said, that there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. Today, particularly in today's world, everybody is running. Especially in the West and the so-called more developed countries, everybody is running. Everybody says, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And that will be like that until they're on their deathbed. Busy, 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 and then die. But important thing for us to remember is, it is not important that you are busy. Number one, you need to know very clearly, it's not important that you are busy. What is important is, what are you busy about? Even the mad dogs are busy, they are running, It doesn't make sense. So what is important is not that you are busy, what is important is, what are you busy about? So we need to check and run where running is needed and stop where running is not needed. I have a lot of things to say here, like I'll tell you a story. It'll take a few more minutes, don't worry, please. Forgive me. Normally I try to finish in time. I'll tell you this very short story of the encounter of Buddha with Angulimala. So sometimes I feel that people of this time is like Angulimala. They are killing and destroying everybody and still not resting and running and running. So Angulimala had already killed so many people, he was looking for the last person because he's his wrong teacher. He had advised him that if you kill, I think 1,000 people, 1,000 people, that means if you do this human sacrifice and having killed 1,000 people, you will achieve certain spiritual heights. So he was following that. So he already killed 999 people. He was looking for the last one. And on that day, the only person he could see was Buddha. So he said, here you are. Then he started chasing Buddha with his frightening body and the sword. He was running. And Buddha was walking calmly and very peacefully and very slowly. But somehow, even with his running, when Buddha was walking slowly, he was not able to catch him. She said, stop. Don't you realize that I'm the dreadful Angulimala chasing you? Buddha stopped, looked back and said, it is not me who is not stopping. It is you who is not stopping. It's you who is running and running, not stopping. You see? So therefore, just by running and saying that I'm busy doesn't make any sense. Really. Okay? So therefore, oh yeah, so go back to that BMW car. So what I'm saying is, this running, this thing which makes us so busy, is our greed. It is 100% sure that we are not working so hard or busy or running to benefit other people. Most of the time it is for oneself, at the maximum for one's family. But just for that, how much you are going to work and how much you are going to get? If you're running for the peace and well-being of all sentient beings, as His Holiness is doing, then of course this is the great project, you see. But for most of us, it's definitely not that one. So therefore, why you waste your time just running and running, not even able to take some rest? And the end result of this relentless running is what we see today in the world: depression, loneliness, low self-esteem, and what not, and what not. You see, that's what we are getting. So therefore, Buddha is saying that if you handle your mind properly, you will find rest. You will find rest. If you want to accomplish something, you will accomplish without much difficulty. If you fine-tune your mental outlook, you will be able to achieve almost everything. So the one that is the real troublemaker is ignorance, which is the root of samsara. So that we need to understand. Ignorance, when we say ignorance as the root of samsara, we are not talking about ignorance which is just lack of knowledge, but more than that we are talking of an ignorance which is misconception of reality. Misconception of reality. So that's the point now I'm talking about. If that self-grasping mind, the ignorance, is a mind which is wrongly perceiving the way things are, then the question arises, what is the real nature of the phenomena? What are the ways of existence of the phenomena? Because it is important for you to understand the reality. It is important for you to understand the way things are. So therefore the answer is, the reality is that things are dependent on each other. Anything, any phenomena, impermanent, permanent, they are dependent on something. If it is impermanent phenomena, it is dependent on its causes and conditions. Or it is dependent on its parts. Like my body is dependent on the part of my body. The part of my body, like legs and hands, are dependent on the whole body, mutually dependent on each other. Then similarly, in the case of every phenomena, permanent, impermanent phenomena, they are dependent on the mind, which gives the label, which gives the designation. Di thevre, hyugre, chimare. Who made it? Designation. Somebody designated it. Di hyug labginda, di chi labgimenda. We all agreed. Now it's fine. It's working. You see. But right in the beginning, somebody had given the designation chi. Now it looks very funny. That's the power of conventions and terms, you see. So what I'm trying to say is designate it. Without giving names and designations, there's no way we can function. Everything will get mixed into each other, you know. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, whether it's permanent phenomena, impermanent phenomena, they are dependent on others. When we say they are dependent on others, we are saying that there's no phenomena which has independent existence. So what we are now basically saying, concluding, is there are only two possibilities for anything to come into existence. Either independent existence or dependent existence. There cannot be a third possibility. Because dependent existence, independent existence, they are mutually exclusive. Now since we have already clearly explained that things are dependent, so therefore there cannot be any phenomena which has an independent existence. Therefore, the five psychophysical aggregates are empty of inherent existence, means the five psychophysical aggregates are empty of independent existence. Empty is a meva. Launching you to a yomare. Can't let mother be yomares. 30 euro. 10 euro. That's what he's saying. Did you get some idea? Now the next important question is, okay, this looks true, this is good for mental exercise, but what is the benefit? We are a bunch of business people, we need to do some business, get some benefit, you see. So any intelligent thinking person, they will say, what's the benefit, you see? The benefit, now come back to the BMW car, the benefit is earlier, When you don't have that understanding, you thought, oh, BMW car existing independently from its own side. Therefore, you developed a lot of negative emotions, especially attachment, craving, and grasping. Now, with this understanding, you will think twice before you buy BMW car. Number one, do I need it or not? Number two, the so-called BMW car is basically assemblage of assemblage of many broken pieces of iron or whatever, plastic or whatever, put together, then painted nicely, put some machines to make it move, that's it. Really, honestly, if you go to the place where these cars are made, you can see that. Sheets of, iron and other things are brought, put together nicely. You see? Clearly knowing that this doesn't have independent inherent existence. Once you see that, then that will reduce that attachment, that grasping. So like the BMW car with people, with other things, however attractive and good they look, but behind the facade, you will see the reality, then you will be able to treat that thing in a much better way. One, it will reduce attachment. Two, not only it will reduce attachment, but you will be able to develop more compassion. Because now you see that this person is acting as if he's really 100% sufficient, wealthy, rich, powerful, but deep down, he's a human being. He's impermanent. He's going to die very soon. He's going to become an old man very soon with wrinkles on his forehead, Geshe Lhakdor's hairs are all gone, things like that. You see, things like that, really honestly. Then you are able to see the fragility of that person. His Holiness Dalai Lama said, the compassion we ordinary people develop are superficial. Because we don't understand the reality. Because ordinary people, when you see a beggar, you develop compassion. Oh, nyingje, long gomachik yuk tax. But when you see a Hollywood or Bollywood actor, actress, so even if I get a signature from them, there's no trace of compassion to that person. But if you are somebody who has that understanding, then it's Bollywood, Hollywood, or Shollywood, whatever, That person again is impermanent, transient, subject to death, aging. So however much he is acting and behaving, the behind story, I have my compassion and sympathy for you, Man, you are going to die soon like me, You see? So you can see the interesting thing, this spiritual practice, it helps if you understand the reality, it helps promoting the positive emotions, it helps reducing the negative emotions. This is very important because as far as the perception of positive emotions are concerned, that is based on the truth, reality. So that has a solid foundation. It can be supported by logic and reasoning. The more you analyze, the more you think about it, it will become strong, clear. The negative emotions have no solid foundation because they are based on misconception of the reality. So when you develop negative emotions, they are suffocating. Like when you develop anger, it becomes difficult for you to breathe. We have all experienced this. Breathing becomes difficult, you see. Because if you look at any of these negative emotions, when you develop these negative emotions, you develop, as I said other day, tunnel vision. But if you think about compassion, when we develop compassion, we say, how nice if all sentient beings meet with happiness. All sigdo. That is difference, you see. So these negative emotions are suffocating. So we'll discuss more tomorrow. Thank you.